Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Discovering Your Authentic Leadership. We have a great webinar for you tonight, and my name is Jennifer Stolte. I am the Director of Membership and Retention with Girl Scouts of Central Maryland, and I'm really glad to be here with you tonight. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and this session is comprised of a lot of research studies done by Girl Scouts, the Girl Scout Research Institute, and some of the workshops that Girl Scouts of the USA has presented to staff and volunteers over the years. So hopefully this is a lot of information that's going to be beneficial to you as a volunteer and leading girls. So before we dive in, just a few housekeeping items. Okay, and that everyone's currently on mute due to the number of participants, and it helps with reducing the background noise and feedback. And we did a mic test prior to launching the webinar, and it sounds like I'm coming across loud and clear, but I'm going to let you know that we're going to do a test in a minute, and that at any time, something changes with that, let us know in the chat log. We have some folks monitoring chat log, and also who might jump in if the sound quality starts to go in and out, which it does sometimes, to let us know so we can adjust. And I'll let you know that the webinar is being recorded, and we're going to house our recorded webinar on our new Girl Scout at Home for Volunteers webpage at gscm.org. So that will soon be posted. We'll get that up there as soon as we can. And throughout the webinar, we'll stop, look at questions, and pause for those questions. So onto that sound check. Want to make sure that everyone can hear me. I do see some folks already typing in the chat log, hello. So you can type in the chat log, you can type a message or a question, a thought that you might have. And you can put in an icon like a smiley face, emoticon, excuse me. So I just want to do a sound test. Yep. Oh, I see someone saying we can hear you. That's great. Okay, good. Let's get another confirmation. Okay, wonderful. Getting lots of confirmation here. All right. So we're going to move forward then and dive right in. Here's what our session overview is going to look like. Hey, we're going to talk a little bit about the tradition of leadership in Girl Scouts. We're going to talk about what girls have to say about leadership, how they feel about it. We're going to go over the Girl Scout leadership experience. We're going to take a look at Girl Scouts and that they become lifelong leaders. And then we're going to spend some time really looking and exploring into your own authentic leadership, and then how you can apply that leadership, your authentic leadership self, to leading girls and helping them become leaders. Now I'm going to take myself off screen so we can go full screen with the slides. So I'm still here, but I'm just going to hide myself for Lord. Okay. And again, I mentioned earlier that most of this information comes from our own Girl Scouts Research Institute, or GSRI, if you want an acronym for that. So they've been around, oh my gosh, I think they're going on 15 years. And so lots of studies. If you haven't seen these or want to catch up on new studies and research that they've done, you can find this at girlscouts.org. And again, I mentioned some of this workshop today is built from other previous workshops, a combination of things that we've done as staff and volunteers over the last few years. So let's talk about the tradition of leadership in Girl Scouts. Okay, this goes way back to our beginnings. Juliet Lowe herself was a great leader, and she had a great foresight, about what girls needed in their lives and how they could develop into a leader themselves. And so it's always about who we've been. Okay? We might not necessarily have called it a leadership development program back in those early days, but that's really what it was, and that's who we are today. We're the preeminent leadership organization for girls, leadership development. And our research, as I've just shown you, that backs that this is a proven program that really helps girls become leaders. So on Juliet Lowe, we talked a little bit about her and her philosophy on leadership and what she wanted for girls. She really wanted girls to be able to develop skills and knowledge that they could be leaders in their own life and whatever that meant to them. And she realized that traditional models of leadership weren't necessarily what girls needed. maybe it wasn't the most effective way to engage girls and women. Now let's talk about what the girls think, because that's most important. We want to know what our girls think about leadership. Let me move the slide here. A little delay. Here we. I think we went a little too far. Oh, nope, we're good. All right. Sorry about the little delay here. Okay. All right. So a little bit of a delay. I keep going back because I hit it too many times. There we go. So back to that research, and they've asked a lot of girls, through these different studies. So many girls have been asked about how they felt about leadership in Girl Scouts, and this goes back to Juliet too. Things that they're telling us, really is saying that today, in our complex world, we do need a collaborative leader, a leader who values diversity, inclusion, and teaming together to create a sustainable change. Okay. This is also the type of leadership girls express they want the most. They want to be involved in. And when they think of leadership, these are some of the things they think about. There's someone who has a solid sense of themselves, self-awareness. They have strong, displays a strong ethical behavior. They are really great at bringing people together and working collaboratively. And there's a little fun fact here on the screen that this early research up to like 2008 is what really was the basis for the Girl Scout leadership experience model, which talks about what we do and how we do it in Girl Scouts. Leadership keys, our processes, and our outcomes that lead a girl to achieve that mission. Okay, is really the basis of that model, which we're going to take a look at in a little bit too. So we have a little delay here. Okay, so girls, even at a very young age, they really do have definite ideas about what it means and it takes to be a leader. So here are some quotes from some girls about leadership. And so a girl in 3rd grade, a brownie, she says a leader is any person of great spirit and heart. And then we have a quote from a girl in 11th grade. So we have an ambassador. You don't have to be a leader of a group. You don't have to be a leader or an organization. You don't have to be a leader of a class. It's just personally within yourself, like knowing that you're independent, knowing that you can make the right decision. You can be a leader for yourself. So there you can see a very young girl's perspective and an older Girl Scout's perspective on leadership. Okay, so here are some statistics on Girl Scouts and their perceptions of leadership. More than 3/4, 78% of Girl Scouts have had a leadership experience in out-of-school time activities, compared to 55% of a national sample of girls and 61% of boys. Girl Scouts are more likely to consider themselves leaders. That's great. They're compared to girls who aren't Girl Scouts and boys. So 64% of girls consider themselves leaders, compared to 44% of a national sample of girls and 52% of boys. A little more data on that. Yeah. So compared to a national sample of girls, Girl Scouts are more likely to think of women leaders in a positive way and are less likely to think of women leaders in a negative way. For example, 45% of Girl Scouts see women leaders as creative, compared with 35% of a national sample of girls. And I just want to pause here. You may be seeing at the bottom of some of the screens where the data has been extrapolated. There's a source there. So this is, again, from those resources on the girlscouts.org website. So I just wanted to make mention of that in case you wanted to read further about any of this statistics and data and what girls have to say. Okay. 3 in 4 girls say that because of Girl Scouts, they have become a leader in more activities with their friends, their classmates, as well as in their community. Okay, so Girl Scouts is working. Okay. For girls, they define leadership not only by qualities or traits or characteristics, but also putting it into action. So here you can see on the screen some of those qualities, that they look for in a leader, a good leader, and then actions that they would like to see from their leaders. I'm not going to read them all out loud. I think let's pause a second in case you haven't finished reading them all, and then we'll move on. Okay, so we know what girls think of leadership, and we want to talk a little bit about the Girl Scout leadership experience. And depending on your involvement with Girl Scouts and how long you've been a volunteer or a parent or caregiver with the organization, you may have seen the Girl Scout leadership experience model before, in maybe orientation or other trainings. You may have talked about it. Maybe you were on some of the webinars that we've been talking about the Girl Scout leadership experience. So we thought we really need to go through the Girl Scout leadership experience, because we're talking about leadership, and then we're going to talk about your leadership and then how you apply that to leading girls. So let's take a look here at the leadership experience. Because this is really the foundation of the Girl Scout program, and it features a variety of fun and challenging and experiential activities that empower girls as they develop their attitudes, their skills, and their behaviors essential to effective leadership. A little delay on the slide there. That's what I just mentioned. And so here is the model. Okay. This is leadership the Girl Scout way. This is how we do it. Okay. Through the Girl Scout leadership experience, which offers a variety of age-appropriate activities that are girl-led, they're cooperative and hands-on. So those are those processes you see listed in the circle at the bottom left-hand side of the model. Okay. And that prepare go-getting girls to take on challenges big and small in their lives. Okay. And this is guided by supportive adults, in their Girl Scout experience, leaders, parents, caregivers. Okay. And with their support, they practice everyday leadership as they earn badges, sell cookies, go on exciting trips, maybe explore the outdoors, and more. Girls learn and grow in a safe, all-girl environment, which helps them discover themselves and their values. They get to try new things, take on healthy risks, to connect with others, to create positive relationships, and take action in their communities on issues they're passionate about. So that's those activities: to discover, connect, and take action. You see in the upper left-hand side of the model. Okay. Through our national curriculum, that's our journeys and our badges, anything that we have for girls as far as program. Our programs are written with a focus on these activities, or 3 keys of leadership. And to carry it out, we use those processes. Okay, so through this curriculum, they really do learn about themselves and their values, and stretch to seek and meet challenges beyond what they might in other settings. They also learn to connect with family members and friends and their community to create positive relationships and band together on issues of importance to them. Girls are challenged to look and think critically at the world around them, and they consider how they can best address significant problems that they're passionate about solving. So those are those 5 short-term outcomes, where they're developing a strong sense of self, positive values, challenge-seeking, healthy relationships, and community problem solving. Okay, and that hopefully leads then to them achieving the mission. Okay. I mentioned here are those outcomes, the 5 outcomes. Spelled out in a different way. And I wanted to bring this up because I wanted to share this data with everyone. This is from the Girl Scout Impact Study, where it shows Girl Scouts compared to non-Girl Scouts, and how they are exhibiting leadership outcomes in each one of these short-term outcomes or benefits, derived benefits of Girl Scouting. Girl Scouts work. Okay. Girl Scouts who have a higher quality Girl Scout leadership experience, those that, they have the what and the how, the processes, and the 3 keys, they're more likely to develop leadership skills, okay, than those who have fewer such experiences. So 81% versus 37%. Okay, I pulled up the model again. So I wanted to talk about, go through this a little quickly. It's an analogy we use sometime when we're talking in training sessions or one-on-one with volunteers and orientation. Sometimes we use the analogy that the GSLE, that's the acronym for Girl Scout Leadership Experience, is like a train. If you think of it as a train, and the girl is the engineer and she's driving her train, and we as adults are, in supporting her, are her conductors, making sure she has everything she needs to drive her train, keep it moving ahead at her pace towards that mission. So we're providing those activities, from journeys and badges and the program and outdoor experiences and trips, where she can discover, connect, take action. And we're, how we're doing that is, making sure it's girl led, that the girl has a hands-on experience and that, learn by doing, and cooperative learning with others. And when we fuel that into the train, you can see that the girl starts to achieve those outcomes. That's like a little smoke coming out the smokestack there. We start to see her develop, those values, those skills, that knowledge set. And that keeps her heading down the front of the train. That yellow triangle is my version of like the headlamp, lighting the track towards that mission. That's where she's going. And you can see that the train is driving on a track, but it's not just any old track. It's our purposeful leader track. Okay. I'm trying to move the slide forward here. No delay. There we go. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about purposeful leadership, because that is talking about our authentic leadership style. Okay, so I'm just going to read this aloud. It's about teaching the girl to take the lead and making the right decisions for herself, to be able to stand up for what she feels is right, to make good decisions about herself and her future based on what she has seen and heard through Girl Scouting. It's not about teaching someone how to lead a group or be a boss. It's an introspective leadership that will ultimately create a girl who can lead with courage and character to make the world a better place for herself and others. So why we're stressing this again, it's about purposeful leadership, intentional leadership, and being an authentic leader for girls and being that role model as well. I'm going to pause here 1 second as we go along. I'm going to do a sound check. I have someone saying that audio is going in and out, so I just want to check to see how audio is sounding for everyone. And you let me know in the message box if you want to do a happy face or a sad face or a message. Okay. Getting thumbs up. Sounds good here. Fine now. Okay, good. All right, then we'll keep going. Thank you very much, everyone, for that. Okay, so here's an infographic of the GSLE, just showing that under the umbrella of the GSLE, everything we do in Girl Scouts, as long as it's correlated to discover, connect, take action, those 3 processes, is giving the girls that leadership experience. And I wanted to take a moment to look at some of these things that are sprinkled under the umbrella there, and talk about and show some real data that, yes, this is girls are getting leadership experience. They're gaining leadership skills through the GSLE. So let's talk journeys a little bit. Okay, so you can see on the screen a statistic there, because the journeys, bring the Girl Scout leadership experience to life. Leadership journeys are the core to Girl Scouts because they are really teaching girls to create solutions for issues they care most about. 69% of girls say they've had a journey-based experience, and 74% of those girls, that were journey users say because of Girl Scouts, they become a leader in more activities compared to 61% of non-Journey users. And additionally, Journey users said they're more likely than non-Journey users to come up with their own ideas, build a team, and even experience the joy of learning by doing. Girls who use Journeys build leadership skills, and then they attribute their skill development to Girl Scouts at a higher rate than girls who do not. Let's take a look at Take Action. Okay, that's some research done on Take Action, and here's one data fact. That feeling empowered to take action is difficult for girls. They cite that it is sometimes, but their experiences through the Girl Scout leadership experience can lead to significant growth in their leadership skills. Girl Scout cookies. By participating in the cookie program, girls are building their leadership skills. And here is a list of some of the outcomes that girls have cited that they've gained. Positive values, practical life skills, critical thinking, healthy relationships, cooperation and team building, ability to solve conflict and solve problems. The Gold Award. Gold Awardees are more likely to see themselves as leaders and to have had leadership experiences in volunteer activities, their school, their community, and even politics. So here's some statistics here. From the Power of the Girl Scout Gold Award publication, research study. So 81% think of themselves as a leader compared to 50% of non-alumni. 84% feel they've had success in leadership compared to 64% of non-alumni. And Gold Award recipients had more leadership experience in volunteer activities, in school, in the community, and politics. And you can see those statistics listed there. Okay. Outdoor experiences. Okay. Since 1912, girls have explored and strengthened their outdoor skills and commitment to environmental stewardship through Girl Scouting. Being guided by supportive adults and peers, Girl Scouts discover the wonders of nature, experience the thrill of adventure, and they challenge themselves and one another to reach new heights. All these experiences hone their outdoor and leadership skills and inspire them to take action to protect the environment and reinforce friendships that last a lifetime. Let's see some statistics on the screen. And let's talk a little bit about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. STEM and leadership skills go hand in hand. Girls participating in STEM activities, they demonstrate perseverance in the face of challenging problems, the ability to build and design things, and the ability to think of different ways to solve a problem before deciding on a solution, all through the Girl Scout STEM programming. And academic success. Girls contribute to girls' academic success by helping them develop important leadership skills, such as resourceful problem solving and challenge seeking. Okay, so those are just some ways that, the Girl Scout leadership experience is developing Girl Scout leaders. And we'll talk a little bit about when girls, move on. They, hopefully have achieved the mission and they become adults. Talk about some of our Girl Scout alumni and how in their lives, they go on to become leaders in different ways. So Girl Scouts are more likely to do that. The alumni and non-alumni alike are likely to exhibit the qualities and self-identities of a leader if they were involved in extracurricular activities, so Girl Scouts being one of those. And we have longer-term alumni who self-identify as leaders in greater numbers than non-alumni with less Girl Scout experience. And alumni are more likely than non-alumni to consider themselves leaders. Here are some more statistics on alumni and how they think of themselves as a leader, and looking at if they, based on the number of years, how many years did they have in Girl Scouts. So more opportunity for Girl Scouts to go on into the world and have leadership experiences in different circles. Okay, now it's time to talk a little bit about your leadership, your authentic leadership. And this is where, we had asked everyone bring some paper and a pen or a pencil or both. Okay, this is time where we're going to really look into, your style and talk about who you are as a leader and how you became that leader. Okay, so we're going to start with an exercise. Okay, so you can get your pen and paper ready. Okay, so a little self-reflection about your leadership experience. There's going to be 3 parts to this self-reflection moment. The first is, jotting down a few words about what leadership means to you personally. So on your paper, and I'll give you about 2 minutes here. I'll be silent and let you write those down. And no one's going to see this. You're not going to be asked to share. And we're just going to have you write this down. This is for you. Here, we are just taking a moment to write down for ourselves what leadership means to you. Okay, if you're writing, it's okay to keep writing. But we're going to move on to the second part of this. What are some examples of good things that leaders do? So if you want to write down a few words or phrases, a sentence or two of what some of the things our good leader does in your mind. Whoops, I don't know too far there. Okay, you might still be writing, but the third part is, what are some examples of what poor leaders do? So if you want to write down some of your thoughts there on your paper, that'd be great. If you want to keep adding to those lists, please feel free to do so. This is going to help us in the next part of discovering our authentic leadership, the next part of the exercise. But before we jump into that part, we need to talk a little bit about what is authentic leadership. So I'm sure, as many of you know, there are many studies out there, and quizzes and tests and models on leadership, and they're all aiming to define, or help people determine, what is effective leadership. What are the best leadership traits or styles, and maybe sometimes they're even trying to find, what is that perfect ideal leadership style. But I want everyone to imagine, if there was one defined ideal leadership style that everyone tried to emulate, and what would that be like? And if people really did this, they wouldn't be leaders necessarily. They would be creating a persona. And so no one can be authentic by trying to be someone else. Leadership has many voices. You and me, we need to be who we are. So authentic leaders demonstrate a passion for their purpose, and they practice their values consistently and lead with their hearts, as well as their heads. Hey, they really know who they are. Okay, so that brings us to defining our leadership story. Okay. So we're going to go on a journey that's going to have you thinking about those moments in your life. Maybe there are life-changing events, milestones, things in your life that have influenced your own growth and development. And I'm going to say, many successful, authentic leaders, they identify certain conventional leadership traits to their success. However, many of them say that their leadership emerged from their life story. The good things that happened to them, and those things, those kinds of adversity, they faced adversity, maybe they were challenging times, and they really take a look at their real world experiences and try to reframe them or reframe their life story to understand who they are. They have a great sense of self-awareness, and one develops self-awareness from experiences and practicing their principles. So here is step one of the leadership story. You're going to need your pen, pencil, and paper. And again, it's a self-reflection, but it's taking some time to look at your real world experiences. So just sketching out 4 to 5 of those defining moments in your life that helped you be the leader needed in the Girl Scout movement. And we're going to dig deeper in a minute, but we're just thinking about your role right now, your volunteerism, and what have been those defining moments for you. And so you can list them and reflect on them a little bit, and we're going to use them in step 2. We're going to take it a step further. So I'm going to go radio silent for about 4 minutes here to let you do that. I interrupt your writing, but I see someone has joined us. We are here. We're just taking a moment to reflect and write down 4 to 5 defining moments that help make you a leader in Girl Scouts. Working on. So you can always keep going back and expanding on these defining moments. And again, we're going to use them in step 2 of this exercise. And so we're going to move on to that step now. You're going to need pen and paper again. So maybe there's a spot on your paper you're using, or if you need a new piece of paper or the back of the piece of paper. But we're going to have everyone draw this diagram on your paper. And I'm going to explain a little bit more what it is as you do it. And so just an oval, and you're seeing numbers, and you want to put them in that same order around or inside the inside of this oval, going around, starting with the arrow going in, starting with 10 and 90. So I know it's going to take you a minute. Okay, but what we're going to do while you're doing that, I'm telling you what we're getting prepared to do is look at those real world experiences and those defining moments over your life story. Because again, we can learn from our life story, and the journey to authentic leadership really begins with having a greater understanding of your life's journey. It provides context for your experiences, and also through it, you can find inspiration to make an impact on the world. Okay, so I'm going to move to the next slide. Don't worry if you're not done. This is going to be on the next slide, the same diagram, and so you can continue drawing it. But it's going to have some examples as we get ready to do this next part. Okay. So here it is, and there's some examples. I know it's very tiny wording, but this is an example of someone's exercise. This was from one of the workshops I mentioned that some of us attended, as far as staff and volunteers, and it's showing a little bit about their life. So the numbers represent your age. Okay, again, this is for you. You're not sharing it with anyone unless you want to share it with anyone after the webinar. Okay, but what this person did is they said, okay, when I was about in my early 20s, I graduated college, I got married, and I became a hospital volunteer. These were defining moments in this person's life. Okay, big things, big milestones, achievements. Things that changed them. And then you can see in the late 20s, their father passed away. They moved to a different state, and they were in an isolated community. Okay. And early 30s, she had a daughter, and she became involved with a medical alliance group, and she started bowling. She became part of a league. And then in her early 40s, she became a Brownie leader for her daughter's troop. And she became more active in the Medical Alliance group. And you can see mid-40s became a council delegate. And early 50s became a service unit manager. And her troop aged out. They became adults. And her husband lost his job. And then in her early 60s, she started having some changes in her career. She broke her right wrist. But she became president of Medical Alliance. So these are things that she defined for herself as being things that were milestones, yet they might have been things to celebrate that changed her life. So maybe some challenges. Okay, so really, it's to do this is you're taking a look at the narrative of your life, and that's what you're trying to put here. Not just the mere facts of your life, those are important, but it's also a little bit about the narrative and things that maybe as you experienced these things in your life, maybe you played over and over in your head, and the personal interactions that you had too, that were important to you, and you were attempting to make sense of them to find your place in the world, okay? Or just how they changed you as a person too. So maybe you started jotting some notes on your story, some of those defining moments for you. Okay, so if you started, keep going. If you haven't, you want to start doing that. And before I'm going to go, and I'll give you a little time to do that again, but here are some additional questions you might want to ask yourself as you do this, and think about it. Think about people and those experiences, in your early life that had the greatest impact on you, and even later in life too. And then what tools do you use to become self-aware? Were there moments in your life that you became more self-aware because of an experience you had, whether it was positive or not so positive. What are your most deeply held values? And then maybe were there things that motivated you intrinsically or extrinsically that helped, define something in your life? And just really motivation can come from, positive experiences and milestones again, as well as challenging experiences. And I challenge you, to be really honest with yourself and courageous. Again, you're not sharing this unless you want to share it, but be open to really thinking about all those experiences. And it does take a willingness, to do this. You got to be a little vulnerable. All right, so I'm going to go radio silent again for. I give you some time, 4 minutes or so, and we'll check in, see how everyone's doing. Deep in thought, and give you about another minute, and then we'll move on to the next step. And don't worry if you're thinking you're not going to be done. You can always go back to this and keep building it. So hopefully you have some great defining moments listed on your graph. And we're going to move on to the next step where we're going to look at some of those things that you listed, and we're talking about next lessons learned. Okay, so from those defining moments in your life, if you want to draw on your paper, this little graph, okay, and just have one column for those defining moments that really, like those aha moments that made you, as you were writing them, or maybe you knew already, or just, like this is, something that really changed me and helped me grow and develop some of those, leadership traits that I have, and from those moments, like what did you learn? What was your aha moment? So I'm going to give you just a few minutes to jot those down for yourself so you don't lose them. We want to capture them because as you're doing it, you might have been thinking of those. So I'm going to give everybody like 2-3 minutes here. About 30 seconds, we'll move on to the last part of the exercise. You had a few jotted down. You didn't need to have 5. I should have told you that. That wasn't like a magic number. It was just the diagram I put up. It's as many as you want it, and you again might want to go back and keep writing those things down as you reflect further. Okay, so the next part or the last part of the exercise is taking a look at your leadership principles. And leadership principles are those values translated into action. So taking what you've learned from your past leadership experiences, you can further uncover leadership principles for you, like what you believe in and why. So if you look back over those leadership experiences, those defining moments that you identified, and those lessons that you learned, okay, what principles have you developed, that you really believe in, and noting also why you feel strongly about it. So you can draw this diagram or any way you want to write it down. If you don't like the diagram here or you want to do it a different way, that's okay. Some people like to draw in pictures too. I should have said that. Maybe some of you are doing that. I do want to give an example here. It was that same lady from the training that gave us that great example of her life story. This was one of her leadership principles, that, to give people the opportunity to try out their own ideas. And why not? You might be surprised. And then why she felt so strongly about that leadership principle, is that she's seen people work harder and a lot longer when they can see themselves as part of a work or a project. The new ideas and new energy were phenomenal, and we could have done the work with tried and true methods, but the new added twist, were invigorating. So that's just one example. So I'll give you a few moments again. We'll say about 3 minutes or so to write those down. Want to jot some final thoughts? Live here. Um, Again, hopefully you had time to write down some of those principles and how you felt about them. And again, you can always go back and keep, reflecting on it and jotting down more. So what we really have done is, again, taking a look at, who we are and our experiences in our life and how they have defined us and the lessons we've learned, to be leaders in our life. And I wanted to pause too to talk about leadership. How we talked about how those girls felt, that there are many voices of leadership. Authentic leadership is about being who you are. Everyone can be a leader. Everyone, whether it's in your home life, your career, in organizations you're involved with, everyone can be a leader and it's defined in their own way. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a title attached to leadership. And how can you be a leader in your life? Yeah. Mothers are leaders, fathers are leaders, people are leaders at work. But even if you don't have a title, a leadership title like director, manager, CEO, you can be a leader on your team and step up to leadership. And that's what we're talking about tonight. And that's what girls want from you. They want authentic leaders. They want you to be who you are and share, your experiences and lead from, be you. They don't want you to be someone else. They want you to be who you are, and you have a lot to offer, girls. And what we've been doing is really just digging down to understand ourselves more. Hopefully everybody has a sense of who they are, but hopefully through this exercise, maybe you didn't realize something about something in your life that really influenced you and shaped you. Or you want to go back after this and explore that more, because we're always living, learning, and growing. We're living our lives, and this is a lifelong quest. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about sharing your leadership story. You can have your story, but, sharing it, if you want to effectively be a leader and lead others, whether it's girls or adults, sharing it and explaining why you believe in your principles, and then, I want to talk about how you can make that memorable. And it does take time and practice to share, and how much do you share and what do you share? But one way that you can really start to share that is, start telling it or telling parts of it. Okay? And if you don't know where to start, maybe you can think about someone's going to interview you about your perspective on leadership. So here on the screen, you see some example questions you might, be asked during an interview, and that you could reflect on yourself, the biggest impact, on you as a leader. What has been that biggest impact? Tell us about your approach about leading. What ideas do you have to motivate and inspire others? And how can you help me develop as a leader, from what you learned? Okay, and build a support team. Okay, many of you probably have a support team in place. It could be family members, friends, maybe a mentor or two, or colleagues at work, and someone from organizations that you belong to. But what's important when you build a support team, these are people who really, you can be open with and vulnerable with, and that you feel comfortable with, and they'll hold your confidence as well. They appreciate you for who you are. They might offer advice or affirmation, or maybe even a different perspective on things. Maybe they can help you not lose your way. They can celebrate with you, and they can also maybe counsel you in times when it's challenging. And hopefully, you're supportive to them in that way as well. But you want to think about your team, who can, this network of folks be, or that you have already, that you can start telling your leadership story to. And then, as you take all this information and we want to take it a step further, how do you make this work for you in your life? Okay, so, do you want to use it to be a mentor to someone, coach, motivate, and inspire others? So like maybe when you're trying to clarify expectations and priorities, maybe it's at a Girl Scout meeting, or it could be at an event, or it could be at work or another organization that you're involved with. When you're trying to explain, look at those leadership principles, and how do you put those in place to help clarify expectations and priorities? Maybe you use them to make a commitment. Maybe you receive feedback from someone, and it could be constructive feedback, or maybe it's not so constructive. So how do you pull on your leadership principles to, make that commitment to improve? And something that some of us like to say is feedback's a gift. So take it for what it's worth, and what do you do with that? Again, coaching someone or communicating to inspire a group, and pulling those principles, and even building relationships, either at work with volunteers or customers, and even through Girl Scouts. Okay, and now those exercises, hopefully you'll continue to take a look at those again and keep building them. And as you go through, experiences, you can add to your leadership story and keep learning and reflecting. And before we jump into now, how do you take this authentic leadership style and apply it to Girl Scouts? Something that dawned on me when I was involved in one of the workshops, and it had been right when the journey had come out, and it was different. If folks were around, it was around during that time, it was different than badges. It was a leadership experience for girls. And until I did those exercises of mapping out my life story, my journeys, and my principles, like I had this aha moment where it's like, oh my, this is what Journeys is about. This is when we're facilitating a journey and helping girls with journeys. It's not like an easy checklist, like check, 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 the 5 things that they did to earn that badge, which is great. That's skill building. But this is leadership building, and this is the type of work, we need to do with girls to allow them time to think and reflect. And, when you were doing the exercises, I was watching the clock as closely as I could to not go over, but there was that part of me that wanted to jump in and say, okay, we're moving on. But I had to give you time to do that reflection. But I just wanted to share that with you for what it's worth. Because I know, sometimes facilitating a journey, you need to, pause and have those moments and help girls reflect. And they're all going to have, different thoughts, and, they're all different people, and they're developing their own leadership. Okay, so that leads us into your authentic leadership and how you apply it. And here on the screen, we're talking a little bit about what's a youth leadership philosophy. And so this is in general, it's a philosophy that empowers youth to take on increasing responsibility. It considers them involved participants in designing and implementing activities, and looks how they can have an impact, not just today, but as adults tomorrow. This was interesting. This was taken from Exploring Girls Leadership. It's GSUSA's study a little while back, but they took a look at leadership by the different grades, so elementary, middle school, and high school. So what they found, girls in elementary school, they lead with action. And, if they had this is, generalized, but this is based on the research that they did, the feedback they got, that really their motto would be, if I help my friend, she'll feel better and I'll feel good too. And then some of the examples you can see, like this is how girls in elementary school, view, these are statements you might hear them say as far as, stepping up and helping others and leading. And here is middle school. At this level, girls lead with voice. And their slogan might be, if I were my best self, I'd be a public speaker. And some examples of how they define leadership or what they say about leadership. They think of themselves. And in high school, girls lead with vision. And so they, a thought they might have as leaders make a world a better place for themselves and others around them. And some examples of, what they said about what being a leader is all about. Okay, so interesting, we had a slide earlier that said girls know at different ages what leadership is, and they know very early. But this is a good perspective on how they feel throughout, the different stages of their lives. So this slide is showing us just some ingredients for successful youth leadership. Really youth do need those meaningful participation opportunities. They need us to be committed to our leadership principles. They need community support and strong youth-adult partnership. And this next slide is showing our girl-adult partnership in Girl Scouting, the different levels and what girls are doing and what leaders are doing. And so without reading every word, just starting at daisies, girls are able to talk about what they want to do with the leaders, and the leaders are doing the majority of the planning for the girls. And as they become brownies, maybe they start now brainstorming ideas, and volunteers start to help determine which are possible for them. Okay. The junior Girl Scouts, it starts to shift a little here. The girls do more, and they're working in groups, working together, to come up with ideas themselves. And then we, as the adults working with them, help them make it happen, help them achieve this. And in cadets, we have a balance about 50-50, where the girls are doing more about 50% on a larger scale of that planning and decision making at this point. And volunteers are stepping in when necessary and guiding them, making sure they're safe. And then as they move up, seniors, they are deciding what they want to do and how they do it. And again, volunteers are guiding. And then ambassadors, they really are stepping up the leadership. They are doing their own thing, planning their budgets and their goals. And volunteers are assisting. They're monitoring. They're watching. One example I always like to use is a ambassador leader told me one time, I just go to the meeting, I listen, I make sure they're safe, I make sure I write the checks or pay the bill, and I drive. And they really decide everything. This is an example that this is built into Girl Scout. And as leaders, we need to keep that in mind. As we shift our leadership from grade level to grade level, girls are growing. We have to grow as leaders too and make that shift. And it can be hard. And I'm talking as yes, I work for Girl Scouts of Central Maryland, and I've been working for Girl Scouts for over 20 years, but I was a leader too, and daisies, and also did cadets. And it was quite a different thing to be a daisy leader and a cadet leader, as some of you might know. And in cadets, I would sit back and say, well, are we going to do this? And they'd say some days, no, we're not. And that was really hard for me, but I have to let them be who they are and make their own decisions. Okay, so on the screen now you see that these are some, the leadership development program for girls should be these things. And as leaders, we need to make sure we are setting up a space for girls. It's a supportive environment for them to express themselves and to experiment with leadership identities. Involve supportive, inspiring, and influential mentors and role models. We need to have opportunities for teamwork for girls and collaborative experiences and networking opportunities with their peers, and providing girls with those opportunities to support or take on responsibility for others. Okay. Practicing and developing specific skills like public speaking, maybe even how they deal with feedback, and debrief with girls, really talk about what they're doing and what they learned and what they want to do with that learning in their life, or to help others or make an impact. And then designing programs that are mindful about girls and the issues that they may face around social and gender stereotypes and girls and their leadership. Okay, so for those of us, and you're here tonight, I think this is something you care about too, that, we want to create this effective program, is again, just recognizing the leadership identities and the needs that you demonstrate, and then identify and create those opportunities where the girls will have a chance to develop those leadership behaviors and reach goals, and also address self-perceptions that they have about leadership. Okay, so some parting thoughts before we pause for questions. It's just that promoting leadership in girls is primarily a matter of fostering self-confidence in that girl and providing that supportive environments so that they can acquire their leadership experience. And the last one is just, if we want to be relevant and successful with girls and a leadership program, anything we're doing here in Girl Scouts has to address their aspirational or preferred definition of leadership, and their need for emotional safety and their desire for social and personal development. And so you hung in with me there for a few extra minutes, but I wanted to make sure we can do some questions and answer. If you have any questions or thoughts to share with the whole group, if you want to put them in the log, we'll answer and share. I'm just going to pause a minute because I know it takes a minute sometimes to type and submit. A lot to think about. Yes, it is a lot to think about. I did a lot of thinking and reflecting tonight. Thanks for going on that journey. And as just pausing for additional thoughts or questions, and just a few reminders that we'll share this PowerPoint with everyone. We'll send an email out with the PowerPoint attached. And the recordings, we were sending them out at the end of the sessions, but we are now housing them on our Girl Scouts at Home for Volunteers webpage. There'll be a link that will take you to the GSCM YouTube channel, and they'll be up there soon. We're working to get home set up for them right now, final details. So I would look for that in about a week or so. This week or early next, we should have the webinars that we started at the beginning of April posted. Okay, so I see, some questions about the evolution through cadets. Colleen, I will email you after, and we can chat about that if you'd like. Okay. Okay, we have a question. How can we emphasize the importance of staying in Girl Scouts and gaining these lifelong leadership skills as girls get older and start dropping out of Girl Scouts? That's an excellent question. One that we talk a lot about um, as a staff team, and also, just when we're talking out and about and volunteers and training. I think the most important thing is going back to that girl progression, girl adult partnership. And as girls, when we see that drop off after junior level, we really have to switch our leadership style and make this, more of the girls. And I know that's easier said than done sometimes. Is we have to teach if we're, teaching choices and decision making, along the way. By the time they become a cadet, hopefully we have done that. Or if they're new to Girl Scouting, that we take the time to do that, where we, teach them about decision making and talking about this is their troop. It always has been, and it's about, girl led and learning by doing. So what do you want to do? And then as adults working with those girls, making sure, we can, help them achieve what they want to do through Girl Scouts. And so again, that's hard. It's about switching leadership. It's a mind shift for both girls. It's maybe parents as well, as far as what they do in Girl Scouts. It's different than when they were Daisy or Brownies. That's a very long answer. I think if we could find ways to say to girls, stay in, they have a lot more choices when they hit middle school as far as extracurricular activities. We have to make it so that they want to stay in Girl Scouts. Something we talk about too, and we've had some messaging go out around spring renewal time, is talking directly to girls who are bridging from juniors to cadets, to the girls and to the parents, about how they're moving to middle school and life is changing for them. So the Girl Scouts can be that consistent thing in their life, with friends they've made, and as they're going into a new experience with school and things are changing in life, and even maybe with friendships, that Girl Scouts can be the place for them, where that constant. Again, very long answer, but hopefully that was helpful. Okay. I'm not seeing any other questions right now. Our lifetime members leaders. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding that question. Sorry if I'm being a bit obtuse. Maybe that means, do we have lifetime members who are leaders as well? If that's the case, then yes. We have many leaders, service unit managers who are lifetime members. I'm sorry if I'm misunderstanding that. Okay, well, and thank everyone again for taking part, and go forward with your authentic leadership. Be who you are. That's what the girls want from you. So if you have any questions, feel free to email member care, and we can talk further about this and any questions that you have. All right, thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your night, and thank you for all you do as a volunteer. We appreciate you. Good night.